Welcome back to another episode here on the Heart and Hustle podcast. Listen, this next guest, 25 years of flying for the Marines, and now he's building a network that quietly supports thousands of veterans without the noise, the spotlight, or the red tape. Duncan is here, and trust me, this episode is bigger than a uniform. Duncan, you spent over 2 decades flying for the Marines. Do you remember that exact moment you knew you were done with that chapter?
Yeah, it was. I do, and it's a great lead in because I always said I'd stop the minute it stopped being fun. And it was hard to not be fun flying a Cobra attack helicopter all
I
the
can imagine.
But when I started answering more questions for general officers than I did for Marines that were working side by side with me, that's when I kind of knew it was time to move on and go do something else. And luckily, I was able to walk into my second purposeful life after the Marine Corps.
Sure is, man. From cockpit to community work, how the hell did that shift even happen? Like, what snapped for you to say, you know what? Like, I'm not happy here, but I'm gonna find happiness elsewhere, and especially in a nonprofit.
Yeah, I think it was kind of a journey that we all have. Nobody figures it out exactly right the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up leaving the Marine Corps in 2011, and I did what typical Marine aviators go and do, and I did business development, trying to sell widgets to the man. And there was nothing more repellent to me than doing that. Trying to, it's all about leveraging your friends and trying to
Yeah.
persuade them to get you in the door to sell things. And I thought that was a bad way to spend my time. So luckily, I had a great friend I met while on active duty in 2008, a man named Colonel David Sutherland, United States Army, not to be held against him. But we met and were on the Joint Chiefs of Staff for several years together. He worked the Mideast desk. I worked Defense Support Civil Authorities things in the Pentagon, which was perfect job for a Cobra pilot. Not really. That's very sarcastic. And Dave got moved over to be a special assistant for Admiral Mike Mullen. And really, his job was to interact across the country in communities in response to a simple question. And the simple question was Admiral Mullen, in his duties, traveled the country, and he'd have a lot of people coming up to him and saying, I want to help veterans, I just don't know how.
Yeah.
Because there's still a perception out there, I'll tell you, which is frustrating and baffling to me, is that DOD, Department of Defense, and the VA do everything for veterans. And while they have great reach and great resources and the ability to put that to work, they can't be everywhere at every time, and people fall through the gaps. So that's why the foundation of Dixon Center became, let's start a community insurgency. Let's get out to every state in the country, as many communities as we can, and see what the problems are on site there, not what is perceived to be the problem inside the Beltway. And that's what we've been doing for the last 13 years now. And I joined Dixon Center in 2015, and now serving as the president of the organization.
Oh my God. And now you're not just building programs, you're actually building up communities, which is quite rare, right, from what you were doing. Why do you take that less sexy, more strategic route?
Because at the end of the day, it's an answer to a question that I was asked. One day I was asked, who do I work for?
Mm,
And
okay.
I said, not you. I work for the veterans. And then when I stop working for the veterans, I'll go find something else to do. So let's keep it in mind that our noble purpose is simply to make the lives of veterans and their families and those touched by military service better. That's our
Yeah.
why. That's not a big, complicated issue.
That's the why, man. And when you think about just you spent so many years in the service. Is that what led you to say hell yes to this opportunity?
Well, just it's the servant leader syndrome. I think we all want to continue to have a reason to get up, and we want to
Hmm.
continue to see the people that we care for and that we work with thrive. And it's not such a transactional thing. It's
Hmm.
more of a spiritual thing. I'd almost say that we want to make sure that I relied on a lot of people when I was flying those Cobra helicopters, and I kind of look at it as an obligation to them and people like them to pay back and serve them.
Hmm. So for you, it's just giving back to those that you felt gave to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. You know, I think about you just mentioning leaving and finding that happiness. What's your next calling? And I have a neighbor, actually, Marine as well. I have to let him know that I spoke to you because every time I tell him I'm a Marine or he's excited, but if I tell him an Army or I tell him Navy, he's not so excited, right? So I'll have to tell him it's definitely a Marine, okay? But at one point I was telling him he went into the electrical route. You know, that's what he does for his career. And at one point he was asking himself like, what's next, right? He got let go from his job, and I think the nonprofit space is just a good place to be. You know, I ask him, I said, what makes you happy? You know, Marines obviously. So I think about him all the time. It's like find that thing that makes you happy and go for it. A lot of the times it's not the money, but when people are just comfortable in something, it's kind of hard to let go. But it seems that you were been always comfortable on helping others, right? From being in the Marines, where you were really fighting for our country, that goes helping others there, and now you're helping your brothers and sisters that maybe you at one point you've s- needed their help, right? Making sure that they're actually well. So I actually love this, and then the programs you're building and helping over 700 communities, right? And I think 11 million organizations, but no direct services. That's kind of sounds backwards.
It
Why
does.
does that work?
It does. Well, when we stood up the center, we realized that there needed to be a focal point. And so
Hmm.
think of center as a place where people go. People go there and gather there for mentorship, leadership, resources, information. Um, so it's that kind of center. It's not that we're in the middle of the universe. It's that we're a center where people can go to. We decided our model was going to be very different. It was going to be focusing on organizational impact. How can we help organizations all around the country and in some cases around the globe increase their impact on veterans and their communities? Because if you've met a veteran, you met a veteran. You met one.
Hmm.
People know what we are, they don't know who we are, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
true,
So,
true.
and the same thing with communities. If you've been to a community, you've been to a community. I mean, Portland, Maine, which I live near, is nowhere anything like Portland, Oregon. And I bless my lucky stars every day that's true. Nothing against Portland, Oregon. I'm just and the same thing, Augusta, Maine, Augusta, Georgia, two very different
Yeah.
environments. And I look at every town as kind of their own board of directors. They have, their requirements, their capacity, and their resources. And they decide where they're going to apply those tools of power or influence to affect the well-being of the veterans and people touched by military service in the community. And they're all different. I mean, the concerns in every community are very, very different. So we go in there and we listen because God gave us two of these and one of these. And we just want to make sure we understand. And then we can help them collaborate with other organizations, whether they be all members of society, faith based organizations, government organizations, civic organizations, academia, you name it. Everybody comes together. And the question I always ask everybody is who's not in the room? Who is it there
Mm.
that we need to talk to? Because we need to have open eyes and open minds to all sorts of alternatives that are out there that may not be just a cookie cutter solution, because there is no cookie cutter human being. Everybody's different.
Duncan, while you were spent so many years in the air, you're hell of a leader on the floor, man. Some of the other things you talked about last time was, and most nonprofits, especially mine, love to do this. Slap their logo on everything, right? It just makes us seem like people are going to know the nonprofit exists. But you got this no ego, no logo mantra. Like, where did that mindset come from, man? You're very unique at the things that you're doing.
I think it's about getting stuff done,
Hmm.
and it's about again going back to having an open mind about alternatives. Um, when we compete in the veteran space, and there's a lot of organizations out there, probably too many. Um, One of the challenges is a struggle for recognition and the struggle for resources. And we find that we're able to bring organizations together to cooperate and collaborate much more effectively if we check our egos and our logos at the door. The only time you'll see a Dixon Center logo is on our website or on my shirt if I choose to wear one. There it is, folks.
I choose to wear one.
um, and that's on purpose because we don't want to take the credit.
Yeah.
We want the people who are doing the work to take the credit. We're happy to help and partner with all these people, but I don't need to say, hey, organization X, if I work with you, you better plaster my logo all over your door. I don't care about that. The
Mm-hmm.
people that know, and we're perfectly comfortable with that. So it's just that open-mindedness. And I'll tell a story I mentioned last time we spoke. Was I was down in Austin, Texas several years ago giving a speech, and I got done and went to the back of the room as I'll typically do and just watch the events go on. And I had a bunch of folks from the local veteran serving organizations in the Austin area come up and, hey, we're doing this, we're doing drum circles, we're doing equine therapy, we're doing all this stuff. Do you think that's crazy? I said, absolutely not. Who am I to say anything's crazy?
Yeah.
Whatever works for this person may not work for the other, and that's fine. But at least it's working for this person. So let's
Mm-hmm.
get out of our safe spots and start coming up with innovative, brilliant solutions founded in what people really need, not what we think they need.
I love that. I love that you say innovative. So I sit here and ask you, I think you mentioned 2015 is when you took board. Was that correct? 2015. So almost 10 years. What did you kind of walk into when it comes to nonprofit size, and what have you been able to do to scale? Right now we're in a space where people are wanting those ideas, those visions, because of funding being cut, right? So anything that you can kind of share on 10 years of being in the space that maybe people can start to implement.
Well, I think we're kind of a different model in a lot of ways. We're purely philanthropic. We only eat what we kill, and that may offend some people on the podcast.
I love you, bro. I love you.
But that affords us a big degree of freedom. A lot of
Mhm.
people would say that that puts us at great risk. Um, but as you alluded to, government programs aren't forever.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of organizations hitch their wagon on that, and they come and go with the at the whim of government programs. I think the worst thing you could possibly do is go into a community and create some sort of program that supports whatever cause, get people hooked on it, and then 2 years later come and pull the carpet out with no backup. So we want to
Mm.
build sustainable programs over time, supported by the community that is invested in it. And that's really kind of the business model. We don't have a big full-time footprint. We rely a lot on some contractors, volunteers, ambassadors, and part-time people. We are part of a larger organization called the FedCap Group out of New York City, which is a conglomerate, for lack of a better term. I think of it as the general dynamics of nonprofits. Um, and they have 20 plus organizations spreading or crossing all the different demographics that you can think of, with a sole focus on knocking down economic barriers. And we are the military and veterans arm, functional arm that lays across all of that. So anybody that
Mhm.
comes up with something in the FedCap group that wants to integrate veterans and military service members or families, they come talk to us. So what we're really trying to do is get other organizations that don't do veteran services involved. That's when you go back to that number, the 11 million you talked about before.
Yeah.
There are 11 million organizations in this country that don't integrate veterans into their service. And I'm not saying you need to build a new program for them. I'm saying you need to leverage your existing programs, just be welcome. Just put a welcome sign up on the front door. We welcome veterans and military families. And most organizations, if they asked who their clients are, it'd be about 20 or 30% would be veterans. They may not identify as that, but that's the normal population, depending, give or take, where you're at.
Wow.
And there's
Mhm.
180,000 new veterans every year come out of the service, normal attrition. So they're always going to be there. We're always going to be the fabric of society.
Yeah, yeah, and like you mentioned, 180,000 every year, and walk away sometimes not knowing what the next steps are, which is right what you guys do.
Right.
Talking about the 180,000, what's the first thing they lose when they leave?
Well, I think it's when you're on active duty or active reserve or reserves to a degree out there, you live in a different ecosystem. My last duty station was Marine Corps Air Station Miramar. I retired in 2011. Every military base is basically an industrial park, for lack of a better term, and it's a closed society. I mean, He has his own schools, has his own grocery stores, department stores, dentists, doctors, daycare, auto garage, bowling alley, you name it. It's got everything. So these families move aboard and they get used to having all those things there. And I always think of this fictional Marine NCO at Miramar with his wife and maybe 2 kids getting out of the service. They walk out the gate, and the gate slams behind them. The storm clouds gather, bats start flying around, there's lightning bolts overnight, and you might as well have dropped them off in the middle of Bolivia because it's just as foreign. So they have to adjust to new things, adjust to new schools, new doctors. How do you go this way? How do you go that way? Where do I want to live? And one of our big challenges is that first 90 days, 90 to 180 days, when they walk out that gate, it's a very vulnerable time. Pay structures change. A lot of people don't realize a lot of the pay we get when we're on active service is tax exempt. Hazardous duty pay, flight pay, housing allowances, all that stuff. So when you come out of active service and live on the civilian side of the fence, you have to make a lot more money to have the same standard of living. So that creates challenges for the families where mom might not have been working, or the caregiver for the kids. Dad's got to get another job, or 3, to maintain the same income level that they had when they're on active duty. So that's a real tough adjustment. And what we try and do is enable organizations to put in programs that buffer that make it so they're prepared before they leave service and have a guaranteed path forward. They may not stay in that, but at least they got a guaranteed job that they know they're going to in a place they want to live so they can thrive. So we take away that uncertainty, that danger, because when there's vulnerability and plans don't work out, people keep secrets, and secrets are damaging things, and they lead to a lot of bad habits, which leads to isolation. The crippling epidemic of isolation that a lot of our veterans have leads to our high rates of veteran suicide, which we shouldn't and can't tolerate. So if we can meet the veterans where they are and accompany them as they're in their journey as they go into civilian life and make sure that they're set up for success, that's a win.
Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying the podcast, we first want to say thank you. And we also just want to give you a little insight of what we're up to at FRANSiS. Some don't even realize that we're working with organizations to help them use AI to create that real human communication experiences, whether that's actually supporting your families, those patients, or the entire community. We're actually creating tech that connects. Check it out, francis.ai. It is 100%, and I love the work that you're doing. I actually want to go back to something else you said earlier as well. You said, "Who's not in the room?" Right? But you also in a space of technology that kind of lives in our room, AI, right? You talked about innovation. Is that someone that you guys have brought into the room as a resource to really amplify what you guys are doing? And what are you guys doing in the AI space? Because so many leaders are still just almost touching the surface or still living in fear. But you've kind of said, no, this is very beneficial to us. What does that look like?
It absolutely is. I think just in terms of data and demographics and things like that, and where the problems are, and how do we solve problems or even identify them so we can get ahead of them. One of the biggest challenges we have is, a lot of the services are in place for our veterans and their families in many parts of the country. In some, they're not at all. And there are huge raging brush fires out there that we have to address. So in some of our projects, we work with partners that are AI platforms to try and drill down into what the real root cause of problems is. So that's how we're using it right now. And of course, that's going to evolve. We have several projects that are relying on AI for the next couple of years. And as we learn, as the space learns, and we get smart enough to ask what kind of questions we need to ask. So I'm excited about it. I went to a geeky school, so I'm kind of a nerdy guy. So I like it.
How big is the organization now?
Well, if you count our full-time, part-time contractors, volunteers, and ambassadors, around 200 folks scattered throughout the country in different levels of interaction. They're great eyes and ears. And we have just a tremendous asset, and that's our founder, our chairman, Dave Sutherland, who has probably the most powerful Rolodex of anybody in the space. And, we talk to mom and pop on Main Street, to the people at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And, in some way, I think Dave has all those things in his head, knows how to get a hold of everybody, or at least he tries to. And I try to pull away from as many as I can so I can remember too. But there's a lot.
That's cool. What are some of the goals that you guys, yourself and the founder, are looking for the organization when you talk about scaling? Are you guys looking to scale? Do you feel like you're in a good place? You mentioned 100,000 people that may need the assistance.
Yeah.
What does that look like
I think,
for future growth?
you know, if you talk about programmatic build out, we have a very developed plan for that. It's all based on resources and what we can do. Maybe regional, so we can have a person in a regional area instead of just we're a national organization with local impact, and that's great. But sometimes there needs to be more focus. We have pillars of work that we do that we'd like to have specific people assigned to those in regions. I think that'd be good. But you know what we really want to do? My number one goal?
What is it?
Put us out of business.
Explain more for those that are listening.
I want an environment where our services are no longer needed, and we don't have veteran homelessness increasing. We don't have veteran suicide increasing. We don't have all these challenges that unfortunately create an air of people throw their hands up there and shrug, and there's nothing more we can do. And that's a damning statement.
This question just came up because of your comment that you just made. So thinking about the military, those that serve our country, are you guys experiencing therapy through the journey, or is this something that you guys seek after the journey?
I think we're all different. Like I said, I don't want to put anything with a broad brush.
Got it.
I don't know what I'd be doing if I didn't do this. And is it cathartic or therapeutic for me to be doing this kind of work? Oh, absolutely. And I know I can speak for our chairman. Same thing. This is part of our healing or our sense of well-being. It's a safe thing that we want to do. And everybo's got their different motivations. But I'll tell you, going back to my not making widgets for the man comment, I'm not doing it for the money. You know the nonprofit space.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Which is so cool, man. I've spoken now to a judge that left being a judge to get into the nonprofit space. Because his whole thing was like, I'm here putting in kids away for life or for years. Why am I not on the opposite side where I'm helping the kids before they get to the courtroom? I've seen an attorney that after 10 years of being an attorney also walked away from money. We talk about but it's not about the money. When people find purpose and realize like, man, it's actually more fulfilling to be on the nonprofit side because you truly see impact almost instantly. So every day you go home, you just go to sleep happy, like, man, I truly made a difference. And for your case, for another veteran just like me, someone that experienced life, I was able to help them so they don't have to walk the life that maybe others have, that you've seen come across, So I love it. I think the nonprofit is a beautiful place. I love that you keep saying it was never for the money. It's surely out of love, passion, purpose.
Yeah. Let me tell
so kudos to you.
Can I tell you one story that kind of drives it home? And if I choke up, I apologize.
All good.
I was down in, I'll make it very generic. I was in a certain part of the country speaking, and I'd been working with a young gentleman for a long time that was running a program basically to bring veterans together. And this was to try and get them out of the sense of isolation that leads people to making very rash, bad decisions and taking their lives. So this big organization, they're all out in this field, they're talking and having a good time, cooking burgers or doing whatever they're doing. And this one person who was the organizer went off and isolated himself away from the group. I go, well, that's kind of weird. And I went over to him, I started having a discussion. And I'd known him for 12 months, working relationship with him. I go, what's going on? And he was very quiet and sullen. And I go, let's talk about what's going on. And we had a 20-minute discussion. And at the end of that discussion, he goes, you just saved a life today.
Wow. It is that you never know. I always say you never know when you talk to somebody where they're at mentally.
Yeah.
why kindness matters,
Absolutely.
why just saying hello, allowing someone to know that they exist, someone that they matter, that someone cares for them, that they're seen, all that, right? So, Duncan, I can only imagine he was going through so many emotions in his mind.
Well,
You know, when
I say that to everybody I speak to. Every organization will hear this line: is instead of saying thanks for your service, peel the onion back another layer or two and have a conversation. To
mm,
ask the service member, ask the whatever, what'd you do? Then they won't talk
mhm,
about themselves. Most likely they'll talk about the people they serve with on the left and the right. But it's
yeah,
just having the wherewithal to dig just a little deeper and invest yourself in their life just a little bit more than a flippant, hey,
mhm.
thanks for your service, if you have the time. I always encourage people to do that. You may run into the guy that I ran into on that day.
Wow. That was good. That was a good story, Duncan. I see why you said that you could possibly choke up a little bit because it truly does matter, man. Like we all have with a family or friends that go through these moments,
Yeah.
and we have to, even though they may look strong on the outside, we're all humans.
I,
You know what I mean?
I cannot tell you how many people I know or in touch with our staff that we know personally that you wake up and you hear a tale that they chose death by suicide. And that your very point. Why didn't I know?
Hmm.
Why didn't I have signs slapping me in the face to go grab this person and say, it's not worth it, you're important. You know, it's incredibly frustrating, especially when it happens time and time again.
I love, man. I love that you've always had this giving heart. You know, I was just talking to someone. It's like you go through life, and sometimes I don't even realize what you have. It just kind of connects. Like you really start to connect the dots in your life. And when I sit here and think about who you were all these years ago as a pilot, you weren't just a pilot, man. You were out here really changing lives already. Not so much just for the country, but really inside just the Marine Corps, right? And what that actually looked like. So I respect that. Um, you don't want people to create new veteran programs. You actually want them to just make room. What does it actually look like for someone that is listening right now that is asking themselves, how can I make a difference?
Yeah, the challenge is, especially if you're experiencing the nonprofit world, you understand this. Um, there's a phrase called founder syndrome,
Hmm.
where you stand up an organization and it becomes an embodiment of you, and you become an embodiment of it. Sometimes it stifles innovation, and it makes it so you're not willing to collaborate and let people take other credit for other work. Um, the whole point at the end of the day, like I said when we started out today, is to make the lives of veterans and their families better. Period. Period. It's not to make the life in your organization better.
Hmm.
It's to make the lives of the or whatever cause you are aligned
Yep,
with.
yep.
Um, so I think people just have to be a little more open to uh, understanding who their clientele is, understanding
Hmm.
how they can welcome new clientele. You know, we have human services or veteran services and human service, but they're all just human services for veterans. I mean, let's not make
Hmm.
them special. There are some peculiar special things that veterans and certain segments of the veteran population you have to pay special attention to. But if you just simply open your programs to be welcoming to veterans and their families in your community, that's a big win. That's talking to the 11 million that I talked to before. And it can be, like I said, all sectors of society, the labor market, the schools, churches, all this stuff. Just be welcoming. And we have such a disparity in this country of people who serve and don't serve, that there's a large population in the country that just simply don't know what it's like to be in the military and can't relate to it and understand
Hmm.
the long-term implications of service. Um, so that takes a little bit of deliberate education to be able to pull that in. And we provide that to organizations all over the country. We'll go to a community and bring in every member of that community that's in some sort of leadership position and have that discussion with them. Well, why aren't you doing this? Or
Hmm.
if you
Hmm.
want to, how can I help you do this? So it's really what people want to do and what they're able to do in their communities.
I ask you, with all the rooms that you've kind of been in, whether it was rooms of with those in power, policy, and sometimes even pressure, what's something people get wrong about serving veterans?
Assuming a lot of things, assuming that there's a cookie cutter solution to every problem. That's the biggest thing. Let me take this cookie cutter and apply it over these thousand Marines. And that's simply
Yeah.
not going to work. We have to be nuanced enough to understand, and we also have to understand people, not procedure and process. We have big bureaucracies in this country that impact a lot of
Hmm.
things we do, and they're more concerned about procedures and process than they are about this. And
Hmm.
I say that, and I'm not beating on the VA. The VA changes millions of lives every day in a very positive way, but they don't do this. They don't talk.
People. Yeah.
Um, so that's a big challenge.
And that's why I love the platform, because I'm learning a lot of myself about just the VA world, right, and the needs and some of the experiences that are happening to on a daily,
Yeah.
right? We see them, we see some of them downtown, and homeless, and we ask ourselves, why? How did that person serve our country, but we allow them to live out on the streets?
Yeah.
Right? And it's because we don't understand what's going on, and it's because we're not making room, right? Not saying as individuals, but our businesses. Are we making room? And I don't know that I've been with a company. I guess I could have with the airline industry. I think they really cared for the vets in a certain way, but it is not something that you go to these companies and they're putting something in place for someone to easily get hired coming out.
You'd be surprised. There actually are a lot of companies that really make a concerted effort at that. Quite honestly, the unemployment rate in this country is higher than the veteran unemployment rate. Always has been, not
Mm.
always, but in the last 10, 15 years has been. It's not the unemployment rate. Remember when I talked about having to take 3 jobs?
Yeah, yeah.
It's the underemployment rate. So veterans are getting out and they're not being hired to the level of the skills and attributes that they've acquired while they're in military service. They're having to take the
Mm.
first job that may be something that they don't necessarily want to do. And remember, I talked about that wage gap, a tax exempt
Yeah.
and non-tax exempt money. Combine those things, and that creates a lot of these problems. And even when you talk about homelessness, it's a sense of self-worth. Society doesn't, they value me while I was in the military, but now I get out and I'm, you know, not valued to the level that I should. And that can lead
Mm.
to, again, desperation, isolation, bad things.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it kind of is really shocking to think someone can spend 20 years serving our country and come out and you're just the average Joe,
Yeah.
right? Like, wait a minute, did this person not just do all these things for the last 20 years and all of a sudden they kind of start them back from the bottom up? Which is why I guess we see a lot of individuals go to school, right? Try to hurry up and get that education because now it's like a whole black and white thing. It's not so much experience, which is crazy to me, by the way. I think experience beats out black and white every day, but who to say? I've seen that. I've seen where I've worked for a company for 8 years, hands-on experience, and I think you can't beat that. But then someone comes out of college with a 4-year degree that I run circles around, but that person got the opportunity, and it's kind of very similar to what you're talking about, right? Like spend 20 years doing crazy amounts of things. I mean, flying planes, and then you come out and they tell you that you got to work somewhere like Home Depot. I don't know. You know what I mean? Something like very random. Like, wait a minute. Now this is really good. I love the work that you guys are truly doing, and I'm sorry that we have to start wrapping this up a little bit.
Sure.
But what can people find more about the nonprofit? Are you website? Are you guys on social media for people going to be able to connect with you?
We're on all the social media platforms. You can go to our website, dixoncenter.org. Dixon Center is all one word. Our parent company is fedcapgroup.org if you want to look at where we sit under. But we're out. We're all over the country. I was at a national veteran small business conference this last week in Orlando.
Oh man, I wish I would have known, man. That's where I'm at, Duncan.
Yeah, so a little too hot down there for me. It's 40,
Oh, super hot. Oh my God, it's so hot.
but
It's funny. You say you were in Orlando. Now I see the face red. It's probably because you were in Orlando. That's what it was.
yeah, I am what I call pigmentally challenged. Things like that. You can reach out to me directly at dmilne at dixoncenter.org. And like I said, our offices administratively are in Manhattan. I only go down there when I have to. We've been a virtual organization well before the pandemic. We used
Love
to
it.
work on K Street in Washington, Lobbyist Row there till 2017 when we left our previous organization and came to the FedCap group. And we've been virtual ever since. So I have the joy of living in a cabin on the lake up in Maine and travel
Oh man.
meet them. And I'm happy when
Why you gotta rub that in at the end, huh? Why do you gotta rub that in, Duncan? No, just joking. So the blind question.
you'll be rubbing it in come February. When
Really, I sure will. Blind question time, man. This was a really good question from the last leader. What business philosophy or leadership lesson is still true today that was true when you first started?
Oh, that's good. Leadership lesson. Um, you don't have people you work that work for you. You have people you work with.
Mm, that is true. That would always be true, actually. I love it. I love it. And what's your blind question to the next leader that we have here?
This is a simple one. I even wrote it down. What is your special sauce and why does it matter?
What is your special sauce? I love how you even put the special sauce into it. It just kind of adds to the heart and hustle. Well, Duncan, we definitely do appreciate you and the work that you're doing for our veterans. Truly, I know that you wake up every morning and it's about how can I serve our veterans
Yeah.
so that they have a better day today than they had yesterday. So we truly appreciate what you continue to do because the work doesn't stop, right? After this conversation, you're back at work.
If
So
I'm
we
out of work,
definitely,
remember, if I'm out of work, we solved all our problems.
yeah. Okay. Listen, Duncan's still dropping gems. He's still dropping gems. Well, Duncan, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate you. We'll have to do this again. For those that are watching, you guys can also be an impact. You guys got to just educate yourselves. And I'm happy that we were able to have some sort of education on here on what it actually looks like to help our veterans that we see on a day-to-day. Better conversations, right? Learning people and meeting them where they're at, but just not asking and saying thank you for serving, but asking them how they're doing. Ask them about those moments. They love to share, as Duncan mentioned today. They love to share, but you could literally change a life, but just asking a question. Guys, it's been the Heart and Hustle podcast. We appreciate you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Laters.